What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we got a lot of injury news to discuss on these five players: Blake Cashman, Ty Chandler, Darrisaw, Harrison Smith, Elijah Williams, and even more players on top of that. So we'll discuss the injury news first on today's show, and then later, I'm going to give you guys five players I'm going to be watching in the Sunday Night Football matchup. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to U.S. Bank Stadium for the home opener and taking on the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll discuss all that on today's show. But speaking of the injury bug, it's going to be a hefty injury report when it finally comes out this week. And if you guys want the Vikings to stay healthy, just go down there, hit that thumbs up icon. The season's starting to feel a little special, and the injury bug could obviously derail that. So if you guys want to get the good mojo heading our way, drop down below and just hit that thumbs up icon. All right, so Alec Lewis was at practice today, and he said the Vikings held a walkthrough, just left, saw Harrison Smith out there. Christian Darrisaw was out there too, but just observing. We'll be curious to see the injury report with Ryan Kelly. It looked like Michael Juergens was out there with the offensive line, so we're assuming Ryan Kelly will hop on the injury report, but nothing, too concerning there. And then also Ben Gessling tweeting this out, saying no Blake Cashman or Ty Chandler. Also didn't see Josh Oliver. So Josh Oliver, the most interesting one on this. We knew Cashman got banged up. We knew Ty Chandler got banged up, but we didn't really hear anything about Josh Oliver. So definitely going to be something to monitor throughout the rest of this week. But let's dive into a lot of these guys, starting off with the two, Blake Cashman, Ty Chandler. Now, Blake Cashman, him leaving late in that third quarter of week 1 Monday night, I was very concerned about the Vikings defense. I was saying to myself, Cashman wearing the green dot, he is the glue. He is the elite communicator at that linebacker position. I thought the defense was going to potentially fall apart, but they actually did a good job of maintaining without him in the lineup, but you still would want to have him back. But it's not looking like it. Kevin O'Connell said earlier today that he expects Cashman and Ty Chandler to miss multiple weeks. So I'm assuming there is a chance that Cashman could potentially be out for the next 4 games because you got the next 2 weeks at home, taking on the Falcons, taking on the Bengals. But then you travel across the pond to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you stay over there for the Cleveland Browns. Then you have your bye week. I would not be shocked if he gets put on IR for the next 4 games. Again, I hope I am very wrong on that, but I could see them wanting to play the long-term game here, especially with the hamstring injury. You don't want to be too overly aggressive there, but let's just say Cashman does have to miss 4 weeks. You got a guy like Eric Wilson, and I'll talk more about Eric Wilson on the second half of today's show because he is one of my players to watch in this game versus the Falcons. But Eric Wilson, you got a great opportunity here. He was fantastic Monday night, and he knows the system. He knows the culture here in Minnesota. So at least you got at least some linebacker depth that you didn't have last year, but you do have that this year in Eric Wilson. Now, Christian Darrisaw, I fully expect CD to be out there this Sunday night, and it is going to be unbelievable. I think U.S. Bank Stadium should give this man a standing ovation because what he has came back from, a torn ACL, MCL from week 8 last year, and now he's returning week 2 in his home stadium. If you're going to the game this Sunday, give CD a standing O. And then also Harrison Smith, he actually talked to the media today for the first time. Huge question mark on, one, how he's feeling and, really what the hell is going on. But this is what Harrison Smith had to say, saying, I'm just going to go out there and see how much I can handle and go from there. I've already moved around and moving around well. It's just volume, conditioning, stuff like that. So I'm assuming that Harrison Smith, he was dealing with an illness, probably was pretty serious over the last couple of weeks. And, obviously when you do get sick and you're trying to, get back into working out, it can take you a couple of weeks. So that's probably what Harrison Smith is experiencing right now. But he seems confident he can return, shortly. Hopefully this won't keep him out for the next couple of weeks. But I definitely think there's a less than 50% chance he's out there this Sunday night. But Elijah Williams also dealing with that hamstring injury. Not really too concerned with the Vikings' depth at defensive tackle. Tanner Ingram-Dawkins looked awesome. Levi Drake Rodriguez was sweet. And obviously Jalen Redmonds was good as well. So hopefully Elijah Williams gets back out there shortly. But even more not good news here. Andrew Van Ginkel was apparently in concussion protocol, but KOC said he's fully expecting him to play. And also Jeff Okudah is in concussion protocol as well. So, when this injury report finally drops, now we are probably filming this before the injury report exactly drops, but this is probably going to be about 11, 12 name list. But Hopefully it all ends up working out. Again, nothing too serious injury-wise, which is good, but there are a couple of concerning pieces that we'll monitor throughout this week. And, speaking about this weekend, Sunday Night Football, Vikes taking on the Atlanta Falcons. We will be live for the game like we always are. We'll be going live probably around 6 p.m. Central Time. So if you guys want to tune in, hit that subscribe button today. And if you guys are going to tune in, just give me a skull down below. All right, coming up next on the program, we're going to be talking about 5 players I'm going to keep my eyes out on in this big-time Week 2 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but before we do so, I got to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Now, eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, here covering the Minnesota Vikings at Chat Sports. Live a pretty busy lifestyle, and sometimes I don't always feel like making a home-cooked meal when I get off work, and that's where Factors came in, and it's completely changed my life. Factor helps me eat smarter with tasty, chef-prepared meals that are dietitian-approved and delivered right to my door, and now they have more than 65 weekly meals made for how I live and what I like to eat. I've got even more ways to fit in a real meal wherever the day takes me. And why I love Factor so much, they got a ton of variety, and you can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. So if you guys want to eat smart, head over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off. Plug in that promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code VikingsChat50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Again, this offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchases. But check that link out in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, let's talk about 5 guys that I'm going to be watching in this Week 2 matchup against the Falcons. It's going to be fun. U.S. Bank Stadium is going to be rocking. And we were just talking about the Blake Cashman injury. So the number one guy I'm going to be watching this weekend, it's got to be Eric Wilson. And the Atlanta Falcons are coming in here with a hell of a running back in Bijan Robinson. So stopping the run is going to be key for this group. And also just, the communication side of the defense. Like Eric Wilson, I'm not sure who would wear the green dot actually between Eric Wilson and Ivan Pace. It did not go well last year when Ivan Pace was wearing the green dot, so I'm assuming they would give it to E-Dub. But E-Dub was fantastic this past weekend. He had that block punt. He was elite on the kickoff unit, making multiple tackles. PFF grade overall. Wasn't anything to write home about, 59.3, but that run defense grade, 90.9. That was actually second highest in the whole NFL at the linebacker position. And when he stepped in, had to play 25 snaps. So I'm watching him this weekend. Got to shut down the run, but he did very, very good this past week against the Chicago Bears. Now, number 2, kind of similar. You got to stop the run here. So we're talking about Jalen Redmond. Jalen Redmond was absolutely fantastic this past weekend. And the fact that this guy was on the Arlington Renegades probably about 18 months ago, and then the Vikings just picked him up for free, a starting nose tackle in the NFL. Fantastic stuff by Kwesi. But, he graded out pretty solid week 1 against the Chicago Bears. I thought he played better than this. He was a key piece while the Bears could not run the football whatsoever. And, he's still a young guy, so he's going to get better every single week. He flashed last year in very limited snaps, and he's flashing again this year. So hopefully he can continue to build off that. But also Willie Fry's coming in at number 3. Going to keep my eyes out on him. He had a okay start to his NFL career. He had to his Minnesota Vikings career, excuse me. He had one really bad pass blocking rep where he just got completely schooled and he kind of overshot his gap. Defender just ran right around him, and that was one pressure he allowed. But, he was still pretty solid. You'll take 60.9 overall PFF grade, but you're also expecting, just a little bit more out of him. You gave him that 5-year contract, so I got my eyes out on Willie Fries this upcoming weekend. And plus, the Vikes are going to try to get downhill. Let's run behind that right guard that you gave $88 million to. Now, number 4, how about a little TJ Hawkinson in your life? Now, I will give Hawk so much credit. In the past, I've been a little critical of TJ Hawkinson and his ability to block. He blocked his tail off on Monday night. And specifically that one J.J. McCarthy read option, 3rd and 1. McCarthy keeps it. He takes it to the end zone. He's running right behind TJ Hawkinson, and he was just shoving defenders into the end zone. So he was blocking his tail off. But also in the receiving game, going back and watching the film, J.J. missed him a couple times. And I got a very strong feeling, J.J. being the football sicko he is, He's going to go back, watch the tape, and he will find Hawk a couple of times this weekend. So maybe a big game could be coming for number 87 at the bank this Sunday night. Now, let's get it to Andrew Van Ginkel here. I'm just looking at Andrew Van Ginkel and TJ Hawkinson right next to each other. Look at the hair on those two men. Absolutely beautiful. Love TJ Hawkinson and Andrew Van Ginkel. Shout out to you guys. But Van Ginkel was absolutely awesome Monday night. This guy was flying all around the football field. He almost had that gink 6 against Caleb Williams, backed up on that 3rd and 19. He was getting his hands in the passing lanes. He was playing screens incredibly well like he always does. And he was so close on Monday night getting that gink 6. I'm calling my shot. Andrew Van Ginkel this Sunday night against Michael Penix will get one. You're going to have the crowd noise right behind you. That place is going to be absolutely ludicrous Sunday night. You're playing a young quarterback in Michael Penix, plus you got the whole Brian Flores chaos going on. Then you just got the great instincts of Van Ginkel. I think a Gink 6 is going to happen in the bank this weekend. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, just hit me with a skull down below in the comment section. Appreciate all the real ones watching this entire episode. And make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on your way out. We're closing in on 60,000 subscribers. So if you guys have not already, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.